Yo, what's up? My name's Patrouski. I was dedicating whether or not to make an entire video dedicated to something so small, but the change is actually massive, but the physicality of it's actually very, very small. Let me just show you guys what I'm talking about, then I'll talk about it so you all know that you need to do this to your game right now if you haven't already. There's a good chance if you watch my content, you've already done this, but to all new PokeMMO players, to all veteran PokeMMO players, to all middle game PokeMMO players, no matter where you're at in your PokeMMO gameplay, you probably want to go to the settings, go to gameplay, and turn your text speed on instant. It is not on instant by default. I think it's on ×4. So the reason why this is a new thing, this is a brand new setting within PokeMMO that didn't exist before. You could not turn your text speed to instant. The max it would go was 4 times, to my understanding. The reason why this is now a thing is because strings, custom strings, have been standardized in PokeMMO. If you don't know, custom strings were essentially this way to cut certain dialogue or cut certain text out of PokeMMO to make the game run faster. If you've played any other online games or any other MMOs, that immediately sends off red flags in your head, and you're like, wait a minute, that sounds insane. Players could speed up their game by cutting out text on like their end of the game. That seems like an unfair advantage. That seems like cheating. And from my MMO experience, I basically agree with you. However, custom strings were seen as fair and kept in the game because there were other languages. Basically, before custom strings, players would set their language to things like simplified Chinese or over to different Asian languages, and those languages generally have less characters, so they would just appear faster and like run faster on the screen. So players were switching over to their non-native languages just to play the game faster, and that was also an awkward problem until people found about custom strings. So there's been this weird battle and war to being fast, to being the fastest player and having the fastest efficiency in PokeMMO. And in an online game, in a multiplayer game, you really need everybody playing at the same pace, or else it creates unfair advantages, especially if they're related to hardware. Custom strings aren't really they're not really difficult on your hardware at all, so that's not really a thing here. But you don't want new players to have to reach out to some weird third-party sketchy program to be able to play their game at a pace that everyone else is playing at, right? You shouldn't require people to be that involved in the community and that involved in the game. Everybody should be playing the game at the same pace. You know, we could have mods and stuff that do certain things like add sparkles. We could have non-gameplay elements like that, but when it comes to actual pace of the game, this is the biggest thing when it comes to balancing any game, is how fast you do something. So everybody needs to be playing at the same pace for balance, in my personal opinion. Custom strings and strings in general, they've been standardized and getting worked out by the developers. So the devs they've been continuously making updates recently to make custom strings less and less effective and work them out of the game. They've been standardizing strings, which is something that I actually predicted and talked about like a year ago, I want to say. I think about a year ago, I started talking about how strings are kind of a weird thing and a bad thing for the game and the community. And they've been working on it. They've been working on standardizing those strings. So I've personally stopped using strings. I've moved away from them. Number one, because they don't really do that much nowadays. There are still some things that certain strings speed up. You can actually still use strings legally to speed up berry farming, and I think to speed up certain gym runs. There are certain strings out there that you can use to speed up your game a little bit still. It'll be like the difference of like maybe 1 to 2 gyms per hour from my understanding. I've seen a lot of misinformation on strings versus non-strings recently, whereas someone will say, oh, you could actually, Jimmy runs are a dead method after custom string standardization, and then people will go test it and be like, well, no, it's actually like 1 gym slower, bro. Like it's not a dead method. There's been a lot of panic and a lot of fear over the string standardization stuff, and we're mostly past that, to be fair. This change happened, I believe, back in October was the first change. During the Halloween event was the first part of the string standardization, but then in December with the Christmas event in 2024, they hit us with a part 2 of the string standardization, where they did nerf it further, and that really put the nail in a coffin to a lot of things. Now, this did not just slow down the pace of PokeMMO. They implemented many buffs that upped the pace of things as well to maintain the same pace of strings, if not make the game even faster. Number one being instant text speed, which is why it's so important. Having text speed set to instant is the quickest thing you can do to emulate custom strings pacing. Other than that, things like breeding has been monstrously buffed to where now the eggs just go straight to your PC. You can breed from the daycare center instead of having to run back and forth. Things like fossils have been monstrously buffed. Players now are doing more fossils per hour than ever, doing more eggs than per hour than ever. My personal best on eggs, using like extremely intense mechanics and really sweating and trying really hard previously with custom strings, was 433, 432, and now without custom strings it's like 540. Like they've upped the ability. That was like casually, that was like chilling, that was like my first ever attempt, on the new system. They've unbelievably buffed the amount of eggs you can make per hour, which has been affecting the Ditto economy, in my opinion, partly inverse, where, Dittos are becoming more expensive because egg hunters are cranking through them faster than ever. As you can see, most Dittos are like 5K a piece at the moment, so people are kind of running through them faster than ever, so they're able to make more eggs per hour going for those rare shinies. But I think that mostly explains the current strings standardization situation. Like, it basically comes down to the devs, obviously, from a game philosophy standpoint, they want to get rid of strings. And I agree with this standpoint. It's something I've been talking about for a long time. I am not going to be using strings because they want to get rid of them. You technically can still use certain strings legally, and it's kind of fine. It's like, it's not against the rules. You will not get banned or anything like that for using strings. Currently, it's possible that in the future, it's just a guess. We don't know if it's possible that like we see some rules in the future, but I think they want to avoid that. I think they're very, very much wanting to avoid, like, they don't want players to come back and then like use their strings that they had used 6 years ago or 4 years ago to play the game, come back and like you all of a sudden get banned. Like they don't want that either. They don't want that to happen. So it seems like they're just trying to naturally nerf strings out of the game without having to make them illegal. They're just making it so that strings don't work as well, which is honestly a really smart way to go about it, and they've been doing a very, very effective job. But out of respect for the devs and out of respect for the decisions, like what their future is, their goal is, what they're looking to do with the game, I have stopped using strings, and I wanted to make this very quick video, which turned into much more of a ramble, talking about strings and stuff as well. But turn your text speed to instant, okay? Step 1 of the video, turn your text speed to instant. You do not have to get rid of your strings if you don't want to. I personally have done that, and I kind of recommend it, but it's up to you. It's your choice. I think that's everything. Does that catch everybody up? Okay. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Like the video if you enjoyed it, if it was helpful. Dislike if not. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see PokeMMO videos every single day. Follow the Twitch for streams Monday through Thursday, usually over on Twitch and on YouTube, honestly. And then Factor will probably link down in the description. If you want to get some awesome food and support the stream, it's the best way to support the content in general is via Factor. I'm going to cut this off before 8 minutes so people don't think I'm shilling. Have a great day. I love you all so much. Peace and Reno.